Hello, this is Luke McLean. This is the tutorial video for HethSorter. So this is a follow-up to the HethFinder tutorial video. Where we left off last time is we had, for the most part, correctly identified all the different hermit thrush songs on this recording. And we did find that there were some errors, about maybe 1 in 20. And what I've gone through, I've gone through and fixed those errors. So now I've got a file here where every one of the boxes is close enough to the intro note that I'm happy. So now what I want to do is I want to actually sort these into song types. So you'll see down here there's no ID column because I haven't sorted them yet. But that's what HethSorter is for. So we can open up that folder. And this is the folder that would come with HethSorter, and it might look a little different for you, and I'll explain. First thing we need the WAV file that's being analyzed. So you'd have to put that in there. This is the same WAV file that we used in the last video, but now it's in the HethSorter folder. And then we have the selection table, and that's the selection table that's now verified. So I added a verified prefix onto this when I went through and manually changed it. So I would recommend using a verified, like manually going through. But if you have a really high success rate, it might work anyways in terms of sorting the song types. But obviously, if it's trying to sort something that's not a hermit thrush song and match that with other hermit thrush songs, there could be error. So this is the verified selection table. Then we have HethSorter.py. That's the Python file. So once again, you need Python. You need the libraries installed that this uses. And then we have a HethSorter params, comma separated values file, .csv, similar to last time, but a little bit different. And then finally, these .h5 files I'm just using for this video. They won't be in there to begin with, but HethSorter does create these files, and it's just to speed up the process so that you don't have to create a spectrogram every time you do it. So on large files like that are an hour long, it takes a bit of time to run the Fourier transform. So it won't have to do it multiple times if you're rerunning this on templates or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. You can just ignore these files. So we should open up HethSorter params, and here it is. I've already put in the right info here, but essentially we have 4 columns. There's the wave name. That's the file that we're analyzing, the wave file. We have the table name. That's the Raven verified table, and I've just copy pasted the file names into here. And then we have 2 columns for the templates that we're going to use later. Right now they're empty, so this doesn't look empty, but it is. If I go like that, you can see it's just overlap. So we're not using any templates right now. This is just as if we've recorded this bird for the first time. We don't have any data on it. We don't know its song types or its repertoire. So we need to run and see. So here's HethSorter.py. Similar to last time, we got our imports at the top. We have a whole bunch of functions. And then at the end, there's the function that it's going to run, HethSorter main. So all I need to do is just run this. So if I hit start, we can see down here, it's going to give us a little bit of feedback once it gets going. It says no template files found. Well, that's good because we didn't give it any. And then it says length of groupings. So that's 12. So it found 12 different song types, or at least that's what it concluded. And it gives us a little dialog box when it's done. It's done very quickly, as you saw, just in a few seconds. And it says it created a table. It tells us the new file name and that it's added labels. So if I go in here, now I've got a new selection table with HSNT. That stands for HethSorter no template. And I can go over to Raven, and now I can open that HSNT file. And I've been finding there's a bit of a bug in Raven where it doesn't, when I double click on this, it doesn't actually open. But if I copy paste it down here, it's working fine. So I will replace that. And now, sure enough, I've got IDs on all these selections, and I can sort by ID by clicking here. And we can start to see, we can start to go through these and see that for the most part, it's going to be correct. So these are the label A, you can see in this column all the way down, and it's put all these together. And we'll see that the 4th one is actually not quite right. That's a similar looking one that's different. But other than that, we're looking at all A's. I'm just looking at the middle of the screen here as they switch from 1 to 1. And then eventually we get to B, and that's different. And then it goes on like that. And so we can see it's actually done a pretty good job so far of sorting these. I think what we find is that fourth one that I looked at, number 22, is actually, it belongs to D. And that's because I went through and looked at these already. And D is that weird song. And this is actually even weirder on other recordings because sometimes it has an intro note and sometimes it chops off the back half of it. And yeah, it's a bit of a strange song. And that's not uncommon with hermit thrush for them to have some sort of weird variable song type. But the moral of the story here is that it's done a decent job of sorting these. You can see the E group here. They're all the E song types. But there are mistakes. And so I think especially at the bottom, we can find like L here got sorted with this other group. And once again, that's because of the cicadas. So you can see this song type here has some lines up top. And what's happened here is that this song type also has lines up top in the same spot because of the cicadas humming in the background. And yeah, sometimes it's going to get confused about the different noise, and that's fine. But the moral of the story here is that it's done a pretty good job of getting us started on our different song types, but we would have to go through and potentially take some of these groups and divide them. And then other groups, we would have to maybe collapse into one. Maybe there's two groups that we need to collapse into one group. But yeah, there's some fixing that needs to be done. And if I went through the whole thing, you'd find that there is indeed some fixing, that maybe like all the G's are actually H's or that kind of thing. So that's fine and everything. But what we're going to see is that it performs a lot better if we give it a template to work with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wave file. It's a different wave file, but it's the same bird. So it's still this bird called Cottage 1. It's this nearby cottage where I recorded it. And I've got this template selection table, and that's just a selection table where everything's been identified. So this is a correct selection table where it's just got the intro notes and everything's been labeled correctly. So what I can do is open up our HethSorter params file, and I'm just going to copy the names into that column. And I'm going to copy the template into the template column. And now what we see is that I've got 4 different pieces of information. I've got my wave and my selection tables as the same as before. And now I've got my template, wave name, and selection table. And now I'm just going to save that. That's all I need to do. So I just updated that. And now I rerun this. So I just clicked the hotkey to rerun it. And this is going to take maybe a little longer, but not much. You can see it's building the template. And then it's going to add all the different songs based on that template. And again, it pops up with a dialog box when it's done. And now we can go over and there's an HSWT, so HethSorter with template. And if I go back over to Raven, I can open up HSWT and replace that. And now you can see the labels have changed based on the template that I've given it. And you can see there's some weird ones here where it says like DV2 or HV. And those are just variants within a given song type. But if I sort it again, what we find is that it's actually going to do a lot better this time. All the A's are together, then it switches to B's, and I'm just kind of sorting through the various ones. This one looks like it jumps, but it actually doesn't. That's just because it's the beginning of the file. That's C over here. And then we move to the next one. This is a C variant, and it continues on. You can see the D has, you can see this little variant with D where I call this D because it has an intro note. And then all the other ones I call DV2 because they don't have the intro note. The bird actually happens to sing the variant much more often, so I don't know if that's the best name. But what you can see, hopefully, is that it's actually done a really great job because we fed it template information. It's almost 100% correct. I think I found one right at the bottom of this that is wrong. So yeah, you can see in the K category, things are going great, and then boom, this one got slotted in the wrong place, and again, that's the cicadas. So you can see it's got all these lines up top, and what's happened is this song type K has a bunch of lines at the top, and so it saw those and said, "Hey, this is a song K." So there's room for improvement, but it is a tricky thing. I've tried to filter out these lines, but of course, if you filter too much, then you start filtering out some of these lines, and it gets a little chaotic. But the moral of the story is, if you have a template, if you've already studied this bird, and you have accurate selection tables that have just the intro notes identified, similar to this, it will do a really good job of taking that and comparing it to that. One thing I'll just make note of here is that it does create the template file here. This is a .pkl pickle file. And so you don't have to reload that every time. You can just use this template now, and it'll always just reference this as its templates. So it'd be even quicker. But as you saw, it only takes 5 or 10 seconds to run the whole thing anyway. So HethSorter is a lot quicker than HethFinder because, of course, we already have the songs identified. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, good luck using this.